I've got a confession to make.
I need to get this off my chest. As a business owner, we all make mistakes.
I've got to confess.
All right, Kim, we made it to episode 2. Ooh.
Number 2, man. We're cooking with gas now.
Well, it's interesting. I'm still excited about this at the moment. So it's really, really easy to do the actions, but I'll be very, very curious if we are this motivated after 100 episodes. Like, I wonder about those podcast veterans. Do they love it?
I'll be interested to see. I feel like we always have fresh stuff to say, so I feel like we'll keep going. I feel like we'll love it.
Well, it's funny. I actually feel like this podcast is turning into like I get to share what I'm doing anyway. So this isn't too different from what our lives are really like, because I would call you or send you a message on Facebook and tell you this stuff anyway. It's more that there's a record button now and everyone else gets to see it. Now, for those of you who are new to this is a podcast where me and Kim are going to be sharing a lot about what we're getting up to and have been getting up to in the last week, and trying to provide a very, very transparent view. So if you've ever seen The Truman Show, that fantastic movie with Jim Carrey, that's the experience we're trying to provide from the business world. Now, Kim, I'm going to kick it over to you to start this one off, because I know you've been up to so much in the last week. You're actually in Mexico, I believe, at the moment.
Yeah, Mexico City.
Ooh, so tell me, man, what's been happening? Obviously some travel.
Yeah, it's been crazy travel. So before this, I was actually in Las Vegas for 2 nights. So I think last episode we filmed, I flew out that night from memory. I flew out that night, spent all that time in transit, and then got to, Las Vegas and then to Mexico City. And it has been pretty hectic. Lots of crazy stuff going on. So it's been good, obviously, as well. And we'll touch on this at the end. We had all the implementation stuff from last week, but this week stuff that's come up has been crazy. And I feel like we're probably going to have similar points because of the reason why we're doing this at the time we're doing it right now. So I'll talk about mine first, and then I think it might be somewhat similar, because it's about staff.
So that is a very, very timely topic. Now, we will make sure we'll come back, because I'm interested to hearing about from last week. So we've got an open loop from last week about hearing what Kim's going to be getting up to with chatbots and his interview promotion. But I'm very interested about this staff thing, because yes, my topic is the same.
So, okay, let me preface the story. So we've got a sales team. They've got some of the best in the world, but also very high cost infrastructure training from arguably the best people. So we've been getting our sales guys up to scratch. But what we do is we have people set appointments for them. Then they call, because their best use of their time is to be on the phone with someone in a closing call, not booking them in, not finding out a little bit of information. It's going through a coaching sales call with them. So we just had our appointment set up. I just kind of framed out everything with her, went through the whole infrastructure of how we're going to do things, how we're going to change up, how she's going to be able to make more money. And I leave on Wednesday. So Wednesday, jump in a plane, early hours of the morning. I'm in Sydney, didn't sleep the night before because it's travel hack. Got all the way through to Sydney, drinking lots of water, enjoying myself. Jump on a plane from Sydney to LA, like 14-hour flight. And so far, no messages from the team, because it was like 7 a.m. So I'm like, cool, nothing can go wrong, right? Nothing can go wrong so far. I'll get into LA, then I fly to Vegas, and it's all going to be good. So I get into LA and I open up I use Facebook Workplace. I have like 7 different people messaging me. There's like a couple of them are just about sales and stuff and basic stuff. And then one is from our office manager going, "Oh, our appointment setter just quit." And I was like, "What?" And she's like, "Yeah." She's like, "Yeah, she's gone." And the guys have been starting to fire. Like, they've been starting to make sales with the new coaching and stuff. And I'm just sitting there going, I've just invested all this money in these guys to get their sales up to the ridiculous level. And now the person that's meant to be driving that, the appointment setter, has quit. are you serious? And she's like, yeah, sorry to be the bearer of bad news. And I was like, oh, just landed. 14 hours in the air. I got to have a good sleep. So I was actually not too bad, but I was like, that's the last thing I wanted to hear when I'm not in the office. Like literally had a conversation with her 24 hours ago, like literally that amount of time. And then she's quit. So I'm sitting there and I'm going, this is like, come on, universe. Like, what are you doing to me? Like, what is this? I'm trying to build business here. I'm trying to be able to go away for 2 weeks and not have the world fall apart. So that was the first thing. And then I said, okay, cool. She doesn't like doing that role. So I just need to find someone that absolutely loves that role, that's going to do it more, and it's going to be better for them, better for the company, everything like that. So still a little bit frustrated, but I was like, cool, this is an opportunity to find someone who ridiculously loves doing appointments, calls, helping people on the phone. So I put out an immediate message I used last time, and that's where I got our most recent sales guys. So turned on a sales ad that I had before. Luckily, I've had all this in the past, so I had everything kind of lined up. Did a whole blast out, did a post, and instantly had 4 applications for the junior sales role. And I was like, yes, I was like, something is in my favor. Like something.
Yeah, we got to pause right there, because I just want to make sense of that. So you actually, to find someone for your company, to hire someone, are using Facebook. So you're promoting for job roles directly on Facebook with Facebook ads and posting in, I'm assuming, Facebook groups to hire people. Is that correct? See, I just wanted to highlight that because it wasn't clear, but that is a very, very clever tactic. If anyone steals anything from this episode, that might be it.
Well, it's good. And you get I've got some pretty quality people from it. But the funny thing I'll come back to is that, so I find 4 people, 2 of them are probably decent applicants. I send them I got it, I think, done up before. It's called a PGS job description. So it talks about more the company, the vision, the goals, and also in it, the KPIs. It doesn't really talk about the day-to-day of specifics until it gets to KPIs. And it's such a good job description I found to really show people what they're going to be doing, but then also go, cool, if they're if you're ever going to be scared of doing something, sales is you've got to grind, you've got to hustle, you've got to call lots of people. So part of it is the KPI is you'll be doing 200 to 300 dials per day. If this scares you, do not apply. Just don't even don't even continue your application. And then of the 2 that I thought were decent, 1 went through after they read the job description and said, yep, cool, that's fine, not a problem. I'm happy to do 200 or 300 dials a day. I'm pumped, I want to work with you, blah, blah, blah. Ticked all the other boxes off. And how's this? She actually had committed to start working with me, didn't even know what the commission or the remuneration structure was. She's like, yeah, cool, can't wait. Can I start on Monday? We were recording this on a Friday, starting on 3 days' time. She didn't even know what the pay structure was. And I was like, do you want to know how much you get paid or anything? And she's like, oh yeah, I probably should get that information from me. So I just found that curious. I was like, she could have started and worked for a month and oh, by the way, do I get paid in this job? It's ridiculous.
Well, I've got to ask, why did she do it then? What's the appeal? Is it the company? Is it the vision and mission? What's been so appealing for this person to want to join your team if it's clearly not money in this case? And especially for a salesperson. I want to preface of that of saying, money isn't the only thing, but it's not, let's be honest, if you could go for a job at some point, you ask that, or that comes up in the conversation somewhere towards the end.
Yeah, you need to know what the money is, right? So here's the kicker. She actually applied by seeing my post on Facebook because she'd already done one of our training programs, right? So my current salespeople and now my new current appointment setup they both paid to do our training programs, loved it so much that when we had job positions available, they then wanted to come in and work for us. So I was stoked, and I was like, of everyone, she bought our and it was not a cheap program, it's $5,000, and she paid for it and she did it all, and then at the end she's like, cool, now I want to work for you. And I was like, this is great. I just sell more people into my program, and that's where I get my staff from. This is awesome.
That is so awesome. And I love so many points of that story, but in particular, it's that this person's already had prior engagement. They know what you're about. and they obviously like it so much that they want to do more of it. Like, what is there any better criteria? So I just want to recap because there's a couple of things here that just really stand out. So first things first, not scared of 200 dials a day. Like, what a qualifier in the beginning. If you're someone, especially in sales, and like you want to see results, like if you do 200 dials a day, you're putting in effort, you're going to get some results. It's a good attitude. But the second part is that the reason to be there is more than money. Like, they really want to be a part of something bigger. And I just think that is so huge. So Kim, like, it's all lighting up. All starting on Monday. I think we know what you have to report back on in the next episode of the podcast. I'm very curious. Although, will this person hear the podcast and then be nervous?
You never know. You never know. She may. But here's the even bigger kicker, right? So she doesn't start till Monday. She's already booked 2 appointments, right? She didn't even have a list from us or anything like that. She's gone into her own network and she's been talking to people about her new role, and she's already booked 2 appointments for today, this afternoon, for the sales guys. And I'm like, I didn't even have to give her leads, and she's already booked appointments.
She's got a bit of drive, and it's a she. I must have skipped over that. So she's got a bit of drive.
Yeah. She. Yeah, it's her. Yeah. So I'm stoked, and it's like and I've had a lot of interaction with her because she did our training program and whatnot. And yeah, like, she's absolutely awesome. So I'm really looking forward to see how she goes. And as I said, yeah, the number one, as soon as she said she wasn't scared of doing 200 dials a day, I was like, yeah, cool. Yeah, you start Monday. Great. So yeah, that was good. So it was like, it's been an interesting week, but it's like, I think it's probably something that's up for the better at the end of, like, at the very, very end of it. So, our previous appointment setter, she's going to go out and chase what she really wants to do and is passionate about, which is awesome. And we get someone who's super driven and loves what we do and wants to stay in it. So win-win for everyone.
Yeah, it really does. And I'm a firm believer that when it doesn't work out with someone on your team, that often we end up finding someone better. But, it could be hard to feel at the time. I'm sure you were feeling fantastic when your person quit on that day. But often these things happen. You hear miraculous stories. But I want to go back a step even further and going, is there anything you would do differently when it comes to hiring someone to not have that moment happen again? Did you flag anything this time? Like, did you see this person quitting at all, or you thought this was a home run?
Good question. Probably looking back, the level of intent, like, not intensity, but just like drive for the role, I don't think was always there from the start. Like, look, they definitely worked hard, and they definitely enjoyed what we were doing at the time, but it's probably not enough, like, what's the right word? Like, confidence in themselves as well to go hard, because I think and that's not to take anything away from, like, absolutely amazing person, but I think that to really go hard, you need to have supreme confidence in yourself and what you can do. And, and we have a very young company, like, all of our team members are young. And I think sometimes when you don't have that confidence yet built over years and years of doing business and, overcoming hardships, it can have you're just not used to it yet. You just, like, you as a person are not at that stage yet, and that's a growing experience for everyone. And I never choose someone over age or anything like that, but I just think over probably 3 months, I probably should have noticed that more. Well, I didn't have that awareness, but to be honest, it's been when I've been away the most in this whole year has been the last 3 months. So probably a random time for me to have someone new starting, but it's, it is what it is.
There's an interesting point in there as well. I mean, I'm not going to pretend I'm a massively senior person, but even in my career, which is spanning a bit now, it's like you do get much better at handling mistakes and situations as you get older. So it's not necessarily that someone has more skills or is more skilled in something. So it's not like I would ever hire someone, they're older and spent more years doing ClickFunnels or whatever it is. But certainly I recognize in myself, like, with experience and, constant awareness of it, you do get better at tackling the mistakes and driving through that stuff. So that's a huge point there.
Yeah, that'll be probably the biggest one for me.
It's really interesting because obviously, hiring, what a topic. I think I've done a little bit of that. over the years. But something I noticed, like in the evolvement of how I do it and all the rest, is in the beginning, I actually found, and I don't know if anyone, maybe you can relate to this, but for some reason in the beginning, I really didn't put that much effort into. When I hired people, I might interview 2 people and I would pick one of them. And honestly, I didn't vet them as hard as I could. My attitude was like, I'll see how they go over a few weeks and I'll make a decision from there. And that was really, looking back, that was incredibly poor form. It's a miracle I made it to here. But I think when it comes to hiring, it's like one of those things where you've really got to commit to doing like 5 interviews and really get everyone to do the same trial task so that you have a comparison view. And then when you do hire someone, it's against 4 other people. It's against a view that this person's done a better job against other people more often than not. And this is the thing. I feel like I've been a rush to be liked over what's best for the company or trying to do things there, when in reality, an average hire is actually the worst type of hire. Someone's terrible, you sack them. But if you hire someone average, then it's actually the disadvantage to your company. You want to try and hire excellent people, the right people. As you said, everyone's in the right seat for the job. So huge topic, but glad you got some growth out of it. But especially with you, Kim, I was going to say, how do you find yourself in those moments of traveling stress? Like you're in transit, you're in a plane, you're in another country, and then all of a sudden, bang, someone quits while you're in an airport in Mexico.
Yeah, well, that's why luckily I utilize all my travel hacks, which in the secret unreleased episodes you guys will be able to hear about. So when I arrived, I was fresh, just woken up. Luckily as well, my mum works for Qantas, so I got upgraded on the plane, so I got to sleep in business class, so it was all good. Actually, sleep and have rest, so I was fresh to tackle the problems. As we talk, you guys will hear that in the secret unreleased episodes. But enough about me. I want to hear about yours, because you had to delay. I was like perfectly on time for our call, and Charlie had to delay it. So I really want to know what have been exciting things for you this week. Obviously, I know you had some stuff around staff, but yeah, anything else as well? What's been happening?
Well, it's funny. People is an inevitable part of business, and like my topic is very similar to yours this week. Like the reason I was late to record this episode of the podcast, sorry, Kim, was that I was actually in job interviews. So I'm actually going on a hiring rampage at the moment. Like I'm really, really looking for the right people. So I better take it back a step, because there's a reason I'm looking for people. So earlier this week, I attended a training over 3 days, or a seminar, or whatever you want to call it. And in that time, much like you, I was away from my business, obviously spending some time from here, and some things didn't go perfectly. And I'm talking things that, aren't necessarily just human errors, like, accidental mistakes and things like that. But like the hosting went down. A software I use called Dynamic Sync for Infusionsoft, which I'll loop back to later, which was the big cause of my issues last week. But this software is not supporting a certain type of form anymore. And like all these things were coming at me, and it became very, very clear to me that I don't have the right people around me to handle these situations at their best. And that if my business and what I'm getting up to is going to be at that level of like excellence, not average, but excellence, then I need to start building a better team so we can be operating at the top 1%. So it's kind of a shift in mindset from going by, where are we going, to like, how do we be the best at this? Who do we need to be the best and deliver things at a top level? So on the back of that, I've kind of gone, right, well, now it's time to build the team. So I've literally been in job interviews for most of today. I've had probably 4 or 5 interviews now, just finding people and talking to people about different skill sets. And then on the back of that, kind of fill in some new positions.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Are these new positions? Are they people being replaced, or like how are these roles coming about? Or are you just going, cool, identify and need this skill set in the team, so it's a new person, or a skill set that someone who was meant to have was lacking? How did you decide that you needed these positions?
Yeah, another good question there. So I'll roll into it like this, is on the back of last week, I've actually had one of my developers quit. He's moving on to another project. I found his communications weren't strong, and because he was working from overseas, it's time for him to move on to other things. So on the back of that, we've got a replacement there, like where I want to add a developer to my team to deliver, web projects or landing pages and things like that at a very high level. So I've actually decided to hire someone for that role. And then the second part of that is I've decided to hire a new graphics designer. Now, this probably won't be a full-time role. This will be something that's more casual, but I can't see that not being a requirement of everything I do, and having someone to go to that's just excellent at graphics design for all our stuff, probably including banners for this podcast. So it's one of those things from there that needs to be filled. But the role I'm getting to now is actually something new for me. This is something that is an area I haven't digressed into yet, but I've actually hired someone from the USA. I've actually hired what I'm perceiving to be a 2IC, a second in charge, to take over and manage and be a part of projects on a bigger level with me. And this wasn't a small decision to make. This is something I've been thinking about for a long time, but it's something that had to happen for me to hit that next level. Like, we want to break through that ceiling in 2018 and move on and be doing bigger things. I've got to start, creating more capacity on my team so we can move into those projects.
That's awesome, man. And it's very, obviously, as you say, it's a big role, that 2IC role to bring on board. So it's exciting.
Yeah, so I got to lay it down here because, it's no secret. I've shared this with many people, and I'll share it with the people on this podcast because maybe someone will go, "Oh," and then they'll get me to do it. All right, so we'll see if it happens. But my dream and something I've always wanted to do is buy, build, and sell businesses, or invest and sell businesses, or build a business and then sell it. Like the full evolution of a business. Buy, build, sell. The three sectors. Now, to do that, right, is a big task. I probably underestimated how big a task it is. Even just vetting a business for purchase is huge, and it's a skill set in itself. And you come to realize that, all right, I'll lay it out there, is that if I was going to buy a business, right, what am I going to do to it? What can I offer? And I look at my skill sets and go, okay, well, clearly web is going to be a big thing. So having a great developer on the team, hint, hint. Graphics is going to be a really important part of that. So having someone who can, design a new website, do all new social media stuff, that's going to be adding value. And then the other side of that is I want to be able to bring staff in from Outsourcing Angel. So if I can redo the web and marketing, add a whole bunch of things from my team there, and then bring in the Outsourcing Angels experience, which is offshore staff, to make it more efficient, I can add a lot of value to a business in a short time. So that's the bigger vision that I want to be working towards. And it's all about creating the right team where that can be what we do. And to do that successfully, I've got to have people around me that, have my back on that level and are aligned with that mission. So I hope the 2IC is ready. I hope she hears this and she goes, yeah, just getting pumped up about it.
That's awesome, man. That's very exciting times. Cool. I love it. Has anything else this week popped up for you whilst obviously you've been, really the big chunk was that training. And obviously it's great to always be consistently learning and training. Next week, I'm going to be in Singapore attending a training as well, which is going to be awesome. The constant development that you do, and this is kind of the side question, but the constant development that you do, why do you choose to do that? Obviously, as you say, you have a reasonable level of success, understanding of things. Why do you consistently choose to always keep learning?
Isn't that just so interesting? I actually had this question come to me this morning, and we were talking about it from there. As honestly, if we're being real, I could probably semi-retire in some form. I don't need to push hard. It's been one of these things where I've got a certain amount of comfort in my life in areas. I don't need to put my foot on the gas and go to that next level, but I choose to, right? I choose to keep growing and doing these things. And do you know what it comes back to? And a mentor of mine said this to me the other day. You ready? Ready for this? It's because I fucking love it. It's awesome. It's I really, really get my kicks off from leveling up. To take on a new project, or an ambitious goal, develop myself and my team to be able to do that and then achieve it is just awesome. And it's it's such a cool thing. And it's not about actually having the thing. I have fun in the process. So when we look at, why I continually do development, it's to repeat that. It's to go and learn from great people and then implement in my life and develop all the skills in becoming that. It's that whole leveling up game. So I am thoroughly addicted to leveling up. I love that experience. And like, as I said, like I really love it. And it'll be something I do for the rest of my life. Like if I was, 80 and about to kick it, I would still be reading books. I would still be looking for, like, how do I optimize the life of an 80-year-old? It's like, I don't know, doing deadlifts so I can do the gardening. It's like, who knows? But that's something that I really value. But the other point of it is I'm a really big believer in life. You're either growing or dying. There's no in between. So if you're not pushing yourself to grow and do all these other things, then in the stableness of being still or not doing it, you're actually deflating. It's like if you've got $1,000 in your hand, 10 years from now, that $1,000 is actually less. You're still holding the same thing. But with inflation and the world and all it works, that's kind of what happens. But I'll digress into this particular training quickly, which is there. And it's like, one of the things I really wanted to get from this training was a bit of clarity on my vision and purpose in life. And like I was able to do that in a really interesting environment. Now I can't obviously share the specifics, that's all trademarked. But one of the things they did get me to think a lot about, which is something I'd love everyone to do more of, is contemplating death. Like, what do you want to be remembered for? Like really remembered for. And if you only had, 6 months to live, what would you be doing with your life? Like, what would that be? And I found it really, really powerful to look at everything through that lens and then do a whole bunch of stuff in that program there.
Awesome. And can you tell us what's the one big thing? Obviously there'll be a lot. What's one thing that you're implementing after that training to make a difference?
Yeah. Oh, Kim, I've lost you here for a second. Hopefully you jump back in. Can you just repeat that one for me? Sorry. Mexico's not looking after me.
It was such a good question. The internet shut down. It was no. If obviously there will be a lot of things that you're going to implement from that training. But if there was just like, what's one thing that you're happy to share with everyone that you're going to implement into your life that you weren't doing before, or that you're going to do differently now after attending that training?
Yeah, it's literally hiring that 2IC. Like it instantly became clear to me that if I'm going to do the bigger things, I need to be surrounding myself with A players. I need to be surrounding myself with excellence is what I've become very, very clear on. That if I'm going to tackle these big audacious goals that I now have and vision I have, I'm not going to be able to do that alone. Like in every area of my life, I need excellence. So it's like, my accountant, excellent. My bookkeeper, excellent. My financial planner, excellent. My 2IC, excellent. My VA, which she already is, Juvie, I'll give you a little shout out here, like excellence. So the thing I'm looking at executing first, and the thing that was so clear to me, and it's what we stand for in the association, is making sure that everyone that's around us, and this includes the association mastermind group, is striving for excellence. Like I want to be around the best. That is so, so important for where I want to go.
I love it, man. Perfect. And to stay on track with your excellence, let's circle back. Let's circle back, Charlie, to this time last week, where give us an update on you from last week to make sure we upheld our excellent standard in the podcast. What happened? Or give us a little pretext of last week and then what happened.
Okay, so last week, what I was talking about is we had some issues in an Infusionsoft account. So there was an event running and a whole bunch of different things, but basically the wrong emails were going over the wrong people and people getting text messages for the wrong times to things and all that. It just wasn't good. It's never a good thing when an Infusionsoft or marketing automation system is going out of there. So what we had to work out, or what was really the driving force, is like, what do you do about those situations? So on the back of the last recording is like, we had to go through and work out what went wrong, what was the cause, and then put something in place so that it can't happen again. So in the diagnostic of this, it really appeared there was two main things that we had done wrong. And I'll lay it out from right here as one. The software we were using, Dynamic Sync, which I'm saying this on the podcast, but it didn't work. I'm not trying to brand bash anything, but in this situation, it wasn't the right fit for what we were trying to do. It might be good for someone else's situation, but for this particular thing, it didn't work well. So we had a software issue. The second thing that went wrong is we didn't have a good enough testing procedure in place where we picked up on this beforehand. So what really would have prevented all my pain and frustration of the last week was better testing. So I'll quickly talk about how we solved that, because that's a really important part here. So on the back of this, what we needed to change is making sure that we have more leeway times in our campaigns for one. So something we can all learn from, whether it's running Facebook ads or putting up funnels or hiring people or all the rest, is like, you've got to give yourself enough time. You should never be making campaigns or landing pages that need to be ready on that day, because that is almost like a recipe for making sure that you have a mistake. So that's the first thing we had to look at. But then the second thing is we had to design a way to test in Infusionsoft. So this has meant designing a new email address that goes through every test campaign and monitors all the emails and has a thing to work in there. So what we did in this situation, I think this is, I want to say this because it's a really powerful way of doing it, is that we hired someone who is an absolute professional, like the best in their field. And Carrie, if you ever listen to this, let's shout out to you. You're a superstar. And Carrie is designing a process for testing Infusionsoft. So what that means is every time we have a campaign in Infusionsoft, we now have a step-by-step process in how we're going to test those campaigns, so that through that, these mistakes can't happen again. And, anyone at a reasonable standard of skill would be able to recognize this. So it's not all on one person. Anyone can test it, and everyone at the company could test it in the same way with a little bit of training or going through this system. So from our point of view, if we've got the lead time and then the campaigns are being tested on this level, this type of mistake can't happen again. So I feel like we come up with a really, really good solution. So again, for anyone listening to this, the key thing is here, maybe you've got some things in your business where you can pay a professional, pay someone who's the best to create a system or process for you not having to have the type of problems you're having in your business from there. So that's my loop back around.
That's beautiful, man. I love it. It's perfect. And such a great thing to take and go, cool. Most people would just lose it, fire someone, hire someone else, and, kind of go a little bit crazy when things like that happen. But you guys have such a systematic process to work through it. And now you're going to have that asset to be able to test things in the future. Just phenomenal. I really like the way you approach that. It's great.
Do you find that's funny? Like sometimes I see this all the time, like someone will sack, let's say, a graphic designer, go, oh, this guy's hopeless. And they'll hire someone and they have the same problems because they didn't realize it was them. Like it's like, oh, actually you suck at briefs, but like their diagnostic of the situation is that was the other guy. We always want to feel that. But you've got to really stick to what's true. And
have you read the book Extreme? I don't know if we talked about it last time, but Extreme Ownership?
Yeah, I have. I think it's a phenomenal book. Jocko Wilson. Is that right? It's him or Wilkinick? I think one of them.
Jocko Willink.
That's it. That's the one.
But the same thing, and it's like I always have the same thing, and I tell everyone, it's like you can only be responsible for what you do. You can't be responsible for what anyone else does. So you have to figure out, if something happened, what could you personally do better to ensure that happens, so it doesn't happen again or a different outcome happens. And I always look at it and I tell the guys when something goes wrong, it's like, cool, well, maybe I didn't give you, or no, not maybe, but I didn't give you a specific enough instructions to achieve the outcome that I wanted you to achieve. So now I'm going to be hyper specific every time, just keep refining until my instruction is as best as it can be.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Kim.
You kind of show that in there as well with what you do. Shit.
Yeah, it's like obviously, and this is, coming back to what we said at the start, this is something you learn to develop after you've had years in business. It's like after you see the same mistake reappear, after you've, changed the person or changed the software, it's got to be something else. So maybe, business owners were perfect. It couldn't be us, but maybe in very, very rare occasions, maybe it is us or how we've got the system set up in the business or the way we're thinking about it. So definitely agree with that. Now, we have to come back to you on this one, Kim. So in the last episode of the podcast, which anyone should check out if they haven't already, we were talking about your run into the end of year. Like you've got a few big promotions coming in and we're talking about putting the foot down instead of taking the foot off. How have things gone?
still probably not as good as I would have wanted. So obviously I think I talked about last time kind of like the botched launch that I did. But I'm pretty sure it was that one I reutilized it as best as I could. So I had it live, I did it, it had interaction. So I downloaded it, and I'm using it as like a free training to talk about how people could have a Christmas elf run their business this year. And just so happened at the same time, a couple of days, I think it was the day before or the day after, but Facebook released one of their new chat features, which is putting Messenger on your website and blah, 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 which we'd already been doing. So I was like, cool, and try and push and ride this wave. So I did a live video with someone that we've mutually in a community with. She had a Facebook group, 17,000 people, did a live video with her, heaps of interaction, a lot of people that should be potentially coming on board, haven't made a decision to yet. So I've got to follow up with a lot of them today. No initial purchases, but I did kind of put the foot on the gas when it came to accelerating the message out there. So I've already done a 45-minute live in a group. I turned it into a training that I've promoted in another group, about 9,000 people that has asked me to do so. I have 2 people emailing out for it, and I have a last, which is a JV partner. Last time I did a push for this product out with her, she made like $1,000 in commissions, and I think we got like $5,000 or $6,000 in sales from her community. So she's just finishing up an event with one of her groups. So hopefully after that, we'll be able to do a bit of a push there. So I took away from it and said, cool, I need to get this out, my own list, joint ventures or strategic alliance lists, and just kind of really pushed it. So the fruits have not been born as of yet, but I've definitely we've definitely put the foot to the floor when it's come to the promotion of it, when it's come to getting it in front of more people. So I think I'll probably have to update on that one next week as well. But I have, really put the pedal to the metal with it. So we'll see what happens in the next week or two. But so from last week, I've done 5 or 6. Cross promotions, JVs, email blasts, things like that, and a few more still to come. So still exciting times ahead. I always get frustrated when I don't have an initial snap and sale. It always just annoys me, but I feel like we're getting there. We're getting there. So it's to be continued on that one.
Well, you get 10 points for effort, I tell you. And it's like Outsourcing Angel, full disclosure, will be mailing for this. We really like him and what he does. I think everyone should have it. But one of the things is, like, I love the amount of effort you've taken there. And this is just an observation, but like one of the things I think is very interesting, depending on the industry, is like, I think it's such a new space that it's like there's a bit of resistance in the technology still. Like, I don't think everyone realizes is like, you will have this. You might be sitting there going, I don't need that. And this is going to be one of those things like years from now, it's like you will have this. Like everyone is going to have it. But I think they don't need to, or I rephrase, they think they don't need it now because they don't realize what it is. Like I think longer term, like it's going to be huge, but I can certainly feel that's probably why you're not getting that snap that is probably you used to from something like Facebook ads, where that is something people feel they need to have. It's the perceived must at the moment. So I'm sure it'll come, but it's certainly a noticeable thing when you switch from industries. Like I remember that from Outsourcing Angel, from PPC Empires. When I had an agency, I remember how easy it was to sell Google AdWords. It's like, damn, this is like mad. People like want this marketing stuff and it's all good. And then when you go into like helping people with staff, it's like that's a different decision and you're dealing with a different buying pattern. So I guess what I'm saying is don't be disheartened. My view is this technology has a long way to come in and everyone's going to have it. Nonetheless, keep putting in the effort.
Yeah, I'll keep going and we'll keep you updated as we go through on where we get to. And I feel like we're there. And that's kind of why as well I try to reposition it as a Christmas elf to help you over Christmas. Because I agree, I think everyone, and like you basically will have to have it, but a lot of people just don't have that awareness of it yet. So I was trying to use this Christmas positioning as well to kind of get the foot in the door so people can learn more. But it's cool. So we'll keep trying, and got a few other bits and pieces, cards up our sleeve. We'll try and throw out there, and we'll update everyone next week on how we go.
So next week, what we're going to be going through then is I'm going to get two things from you. Number one is we're going to hear about your new sales girl or your appointment setter. Here, I'm really keen on that one because of how she's come into the role. I think that's very fascinating. But the second one is we'll get some more numbers from you and how things are going with the Christmas elf promotion. From my side,
Definitely.
I'll be reporting back, and what we'll be talking more about is these hires. I want to take, obviously anyone who's listening to this, I want to explain to you, why I'm hiring, who I'm hiring, and how we go about that. I think that'd be some really valuable things like how to train up staff and all the rest of it, how to design your positions, and that's what I'll talk a little bit more about next week.
Beautiful. Sounds like it's going to be an action-packed episode.
It will be. I'll almost guarantee it. Now, for anyone that would like to come in and spend more time with me and Kim, we are running a mastermind group. So we do have a mastermind group called The Association. You'll have a link to it under wherever you're listening or watching this episode. But if you would like to come and be a part of that, come check that out. It's a place for us to really answer your direct questions. So if you would like to know more about what we're doing, or perhaps want to ask some questions specifically on the things we've spoken about in this podcast, this is the place. We also run a weekly Q&A in that group, and we have a really extensive training library coming together on things like virtual staff, Facebook ads, and then business systems as well. So that's it for this episode. Any final thoughts or words from your side, Kim?
No, but I feel like we should have, before the end of the year, Charlie, we should have, I do have a point then. I take that back. I feel like we should have our association handshake down and give it a live demonstration on the podcast before the end of the year. I'm just going to put that out there.
Well, that actually may be very possible. So I'm traveling to Perth in early December. So we might be able to video a secret handshake, which is obviously going to be a big part of the association. But this is definitely doable. And I also love that you said no, and then you actually did have something to add to the end. Makes it authentic.
Yeah, this is how we roll. And what about you, Charlie? Anything before we wrap up?
Look, it's been a big week. I'm actually feeling a bit battered. Anyone who's watching this on video will probably notice the rings under my eyes at the moment. It's been a huge week. But the thing I always kind of think of these moments is whenever you do have those big weeks, that's where the growth comes from. So when you push and you have any pain or resistance or challenge, that's where you learn and grow. And I'm thriving on that at the moment. So that's it for this week. This is the last time we'll go around. But anyway, end of the episode 2, done and dusted. Make sure you connect with us, share the episode, tell your friends. We will see you in episode 3.
I've got to confess.